Welcome back to another episode of Penelope Draws Manga. Lately I've noticed that there is a surprising lack of Genshin Impact and Zelda fan art together, which I thought was really weird considering how much the games have in common. Also, I just kind of really wanted to draw Link and Venti, so I thought, why not draw them playing their lyres together? It's not very often that I draw two characters in the same picture together, so I had the added difficulty of trying to figure out how they would fit in the picture together, if they're going to be like physically interacting, like one of them might have like his hand on his shoulder or something. I imagine that Link and Venti would be good musical buddies. For Link, I did decide to draw Skyward Sword Link since he does have a lyre, but honestly just about any of the Links would have worked since most of them can play musical instruments. But Venti seems to be pretty partial to the lyre himself, so I drew the version of Link that has a lyre. Also, I'm just kind of partial to Skyward Sword Link. Skyward Sword was my first Zelda game, and I still really love it. As you might imagine, drawing Link was a lot easier than drawing Venti, mostly because I've played Zelda a lot longer than I've played Genshin, so I actually know what Link looks like a lot more. And then Venti's also a lot more detailed than Link. I decided to just skip this, but I drew 3 different sketches for Venti before I settled on a final version, but I only drew 2 for Link. Fortunately for the poses, I had previously drawn a picture of Skyward Sword Link playing the lyre. This was a few years ago, and my style was kind of different from how it is now, which I could and did use as a reference. It was actually very interesting to see how the way that I draw things has evolved over the past, I think it was 2 years since I drew the last picture of Link. I can actually put it up here on screen for you right now. I just kind of drew him in front of a goddess while playing the harp with the butterflies around. It was a very fun picture to draw, and I definitely used the hands and the same lyre as a reference for this picture. After I flipped the canvas, I was realizing some things looked a little bit off, so I shifted them around using a distort tool and the liquefy tool. That helped things look a little bit more regular and less goofy. Coloring was a relatively simple procedure. I just sampled all of the colors from the screenshots that you could probably see for references in the top of the screen. So I just kind of filled it in from there. One thing that did give me trouble is that usually I like to keep all of my colors separate on different layers in Procreate, but I wasn't exactly able to do that because of the number of layers that Procreate allows a certain canvas size to have. For this piece, I decided to use a screen size canvas, which I think allowed me to have like 72 layers, which sounds like a lot, but once you're adding like a background, maybe a foreground, and then multiple different levels of light and shadow, all on separate layers for different colors, it all started adding up very quickly. So I had to end up sharing different layers with different colors, and sometimes it got a little confusing which colors were on which layers. It's one of the few things that I still don't really care for in Procreate, although I've been using this same program for, I think, 3 years now, if I remember correctly. But I don't really know if that's something that other drawing programs don't have as a limit on how many layers you can have. So if anybody knows, please tell me in the comments, and maybe I'll check out that program in a bit. Also, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before in my avatar video, but the pencil tool doesn't really allow me to just do a drop bucket tool for color, so I did have to go in and just draw it all, which is always annoying, but I do like the way the pencil marks look better. Now, I did say that I sampled the colors directly off of the little reference pictures that I had, but this wasn't going to work super well because the colors of the two characters don't really, they're not really the same color palette. So I filled in everything with the base colors that I got off of the reference pictures, and then after I was finished, I took a screenshot of the base colors and moved that to just photos. In photos, I could use a filter to just change it to whatever color I wanted, and then they would make the colors more harmonious together. This is actually a trick that I've been using for a while now for some other pictures if I wanted it to be like a different color. Like I think I used it for the Cupid picture. So I just kind of play around with the different filters until I find one that I like. Not the black and white one, although I just want to see what it looked like. And I ended up settling with the, I think it was the Dramatic Cool, or just the Dramatic one maybe. It gave it a much softer feel, especially on Link. Link's colors were much harsher before the filter, although honestly it didn't change Venti much at all. Now originally for the background, what I wanted to do is have it split down the middle and put like Mondstadt on the right where Venti is, and then put Skyloft on the left where Link is. But it ended up being really, really complicated, so I just decided to make it on Windrise instead. At this point, I'd already been working on the piece for about 5 hours, which isn't the longest I've ever worked on a piece, but for YouTube, it's definitely the longest piece I've made so far. Oh yeah, and if I'd really wanted to get fancy, I would have also added Dvalin and the Crimson Loftwing, but I was quickly realizing that was going to take too much time, so I ended up not following through with it. But if that's something you'd like to see, please let me know, and I'll see what I can do. The shading for this piece was relatively straightforward. I just made the light source coming from the top left-hand side. I imagine it's like early afternoon or late morning or something like that. Like the kind of summer day that's really cool in the shade, but nice and warm in the sun. That was the kind of atmosphere I was going for with this picture. In some parts of the picture, like Link's hair, which I'm working on now, it took me a while to decide that it was good enough. I mean, I don't feel like it's as good as it could have been, but I also was realizing that any more time that I spent on it wouldn't make it any better, so I just moved on eventually. Shading in Venti's hair was really fun because I don't often draw characters that have hair as dark as his. I do have one character from my book who has black hair, but I haven't drawn her in a really, really long time, at least not in any finished capacity. So now that I've got a little bit more experience under my belt, it was really interesting to try and give form to Venti's really dark hair. I couldn't add shadows that much because his hair is already so dark, so I just used a lot of highlights, which was really fun, actually. I was having trouble shading the hands, so I kind of went with a blend of soft and hard shading. I don't know how well this ended up looking, but it looked sort of okay, so I just kind of shrugged and said good enough. The ruffles were also really interesting because I could like pull the shading up a little bit and give it more form. So that was a lot of fun. Same with Venti's silly ruffled shirt. Oh yeah, and I'm sorry it's taken me so long to get this video out. I've been really, really busy the past couple of weeks, and not only that, I was feeling pretty inspired for this piece. I ended up having like 4 hours of footage and having done a total of 8 hours on this piece. So I had a lot of stuff to sift through for what I wanted to put on in this video. Thank you for your patience. I wanted to make a community tab post about how I'm not going to be posting a video this week or the week after that. But turns out you can only make community posts if you've got more than 1,000 subscribers. So I guess I'm not going to be doing that for a little while. Also, I really hate asking for subscribers or like thumbs up or all that. I don't know. It feels like people who watch YouTube, they know how YouTube works, and if they wanted to subscribe or like my video, well then they know that without me just telling them. Or you guys, I guess. So on this channel, I'm not going to ask you to like or subscribe, but if you got this far in the video, I thank you anyway. Oh yeah, and for this last part, this is my favorite part of the whole picture, was making the little splotches of light over both of them. It really makes them feel like they're in the scenery, and anyways, it was fun to make. Later I was thinking of doing like another Genshin fan art, but this time with Zhao and, I don't know, does anybody know Hiei from Yu Yu Hakusho? Let me know if you just think that's a good idea. I just think it sounds kind of funny. And as always, I hope that you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it, and I hope that you have a fantastic day. Bye-bye!